Reece James, how is he today?
Not good, Andy. We think we need a little bit more longer prognosis with him. So we're just taking an extra 24 hours with him and letting him settle down. So in regards to the game and that, we don't think he'll make this game.
Is it a case of bruising or swelling in the necessary area hasn't settled enough for a scan yet, or it's bad?
Yeah, no, I hope it's bruising, Andy. I hope it's that bruising element part, and just getting him settled down. But rather than him get on it and keep trying or trying again, we're just really careful that we're not doing anything more severe, just in case.
There's somehow the area of the left-hand side of the defence because of injury is an issue now.
Yeah, Andy, you could say that. It isn't an issue because obviously, to lose another one on that left-hand side is not ideal, but we understand football.
George Byers was a maybe. What's happening with him?
Yes, still George, 50-50. I mean, I've seen him today. We've had a good chat today. I'll have a talk with him again in the morning and see how he feels again. But as he's going nearby, he's improving all the time, Andy. It's just whether he can tolerate the discomfort that he's feeling. But we don't think he can do any more damage to what he's done. So therefore, it's just down to the pressure that he can apply on it.
Right. So does that then mean he is under consideration for a place in the squad tomorrow then, or given those circumstances, then another week or so might do him the power of good?
Yeah, on both fronts, Andy. On both fronts, and that's why it's an adult conversation with George and the staff in the morning and seeing how he feels another 24 hours. But on both fronts, really, it is a conversation really on those two elements, really. If not, then certainly we'd hope with another solid week's training behind him, then he'll feel a lot more better. But we'll have a look tomorrow in the morning.
You mentioned that part of the reason that Bannon and Windass were brought off the other day were fatigue-related issues. On that basis, then, given the fact it's only really October, is that a bit of a concern then?
No concern at all. Simple fact of, we had the game at Port Vale, travelled to Plymouth 3 days later. Both players put an incredible amount of work in, excellent detail in terms of their precision, Andy. And just as the game ebbed on, we just felt like the tempo of our speed of play just went a little bit. And that was only purely for that purpose and reason for it, really. But in terms of that, I've got no problem with it being October in terms of where the both of them are or where the group of players are.
A lot of fans have wondered about those substitutions and whether they had a negative impact on the game. In hindsight, do you still reckon they were the right subs to make?
Probably part I'm more annoyed with is probably we didn't defend it at the end. I mean, it was a lapse of concentration, Andy, what led to it really in terms of the goal. And though when I look back at the game, it was a strong performance at the time. We more focus on that last sort of phase of the game, really, in terms of we could have, should have defended it better. Because from our point of view, where we was at, it was an avoidable goal.
Because ultimately, after all of that and testing Cooper several times and hitting the woodwork and all of that, the match down at Plymouth just seems like a massive missed opportunity. If I can phrase it like that.
I mean, don't get us wrong. I mean, we try and set our stall out each and every single game, and we try and isolate each game, as you know, Andy, what we do week in, week out. And we looked at Plymouth game as another isolated game. And we saw the game was a chance of first against third and an opportunity for us potentially, if we got the win, to go top of the league. but it wasn't to be. I thought it was a good game, a pulsating game. I thought we set our stall out and we carried the momentum through to the game. I thought looking at the game, it's probably the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game really where probably it ran away from us a little bit in the end, and we weren't able to see it out really. But even at that level, the concentration levels needed to come up, and as I said, it was only lapses of concentration what felt done us at the most crucial time in the game.
How can you cure that? How can you cure that? Because it's, you know, you and us, if you like, the media, have discussed those types of scenarios before. Something happens in the last minute, it's a lapse of concentration. How can that be worked on?
Yeah, no, it's getting things like, you know, as we know, we've been working with our sports psychologists, working in putting their team in different scenarios in a mental state really, but also at the same time, you can never replicate a situation again really, so they come different and at different times. It's the individual remaining sort of vigilant, concentration levels, and also we know that tiredness and fatigue can play that as well, the atmosphere in the crowd. So there's many different scenarios, but it's down to the individuals and the collective group of making sure that they're extra vigilant, and concentration levels in terms of as football, as we know, is a split second you can score a goal. So you've got to be trying to be aware for every situation. You can replicate training, but Andy, you're never going to replicate the ideal situation really. So those are the scenarios that we will be looking and talking to the players. We've spoken to them over the last couple of days. We'll be doing some work with them again next week, and try and cut out those lapses of concentration.
So Cheltenham next then, what's your assessment of them right now?
I think Wade took over at a time where obviously Michael Duff's moved on. He's somebody that's been part of the staff, showing continuity there, and somebody that's done his coaching badges and has shown a thirst to want to get into management, and he's been given a wonderful opportunity to manage Cheltenham. He's got them playing with a solid approach, and an approach that where they build through the pitch very, very carefully and solid, and they've just got a solid element about them. So he started quite well with them. They've got some good wins on the board. Excellent win against Bolton the other night, an excellent win. So I'm sure they'll come up here tomorrow in a confident, buoyant mood, and it bodes well for a different type of test for us tomorrow, Andy, but another excellent game for us.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, Andy.
Afternoon, Darren. How's it going?
Okay, Joe.
Good stuff. Just to touch on Reece there, with his injury, was it a direct result of the challenge on him in the first half against Putnam?
Yeah, so he had to come off at half time. So it was that direct challenge, and he wasn't getting any better really. So we've had the long journey back up, Joe. So like I said, over the last sort of 24, we want to give it a little bit longer. Like we said to Andy, with all that bruising and swelling to go down, and then we can assess him better.
Does this change your plans for Mark McGuinness, possibly? I know you said that he was 50-50 for this weekend and you will hopefully be back. Does an injury to Reece make you think, even if he's not quite 100%, you might have to play him anyway?
Yeah, possibly. His timing's come back. We did the same with Ben Hennigan in terms of the injury. We kind of almost brought Ben back sort of 5-7 days early, and grateful that he's managed to sustain and hold his own really. So that was the right timing, and we'll have a look at Mark. Mark's trained a few days, and that, like I said, we'll have a chat with him tomorrow, and again we'll look at the volume that he's done thus far and feel if it's sufficient enough to put him straight back in.
I mean, obviously, looking at the Plymouth game, it was points dropped after a good performance. A lot is said about not getting points against the teams at the top. Do you think that obviously you want to win every game, but do you think that there is sometimes a little bit too much onus put on those top teams, when if you do, if you drop points to them but you win every game against 6 downwards, then you're going to be fine anyway? Do you think there's sometimes a little bit too much put on the game against those top sides?
No, I don't. I look on every game really, Joe, as opportunity to collect points. You know, it's not just the top teams, or you build yourself against the top teams. There's all teams in the division to get points off, and irrespective if both teams are at the top end of the table or middle or at the bottom end, or one's at the top and one's at there's 3 points available, and you're always trying to work as extremely hard in trying to nullify the opposition's strengths and try and expose weaknesses within the opposition to try and get the points, and that's how it is. So you know, the games that come along, Joe, there's very much different elements to the game, but it's how you try and set up and play against them to gain those points. And if the points come against the top teams, great. If the points come against middle or bottom teams, then great, because they're all going towards a points tally that we need to get towards the end of the season.
Perfect. I want to ask, there's some reports in Scotland about Wednesday being interested in a young player called Max Johnson. I know that you're not going to talk about players that aren't yours and all that kind of thing, but in the article they mentioned about a new scouting network that's been set up by Wednesday. I just wondered, is that something that you guys have done recently?
I don't know if it's a new scouting network or if it's something that's been in place, but we've always had strong links up in Scotland. We've got, you know, up the north there really covered, and we got our finger on the pulse in terms of players up there, because it is a hotbed of talent up there, you know, and there is some good young players up there that we've got our finger on the pulse there. And as I said, you know, if the right ones come available and we feel it's right in order taking the club forward, then great. But at the moment, Joe, at this time, then I won't discuss anything further with that. But we have got our scouting network up there.
Have you changed the scouting network much since you came on board? I know that you work obviously very close with David Downs. Have you made many changes to the way that the club scouts players?
I think we've been more, obviously, you know, you go more in detail in terms of the type of player that you're looking to recruit in, and the longevity of the player in terms of where we want to go. So in terms of the succession planning, we're starting to get that more so in place now. So there's more challenges, I think, in terms of us as a staff and on a recruitment basis to try and be ahead of the game, if you like, and spotting and identifying those talented players out there and what we can recruit and bring in the club, because it's important that despite us looking at where we are now, you've got to have a succession planning in terms of behind Joe. It really, really is important. And for that succession planning to happen, it don't just happen overnight. There's things that you got to implement and put into order. And we're consistently doing that. We're consistently communicating, looking at the team from week to week in terms of where we're going and where we need to go. We're consistently looking at the January window. We're consistently looking towards the end. So plans are already in place for those ongoing, that when the football fixtures elapse and that we get the time to really focus on those matters. So and next week will be another time for us all to get together in a one-game week to talk about that.
Brilliant, thanks. I want to touch on Barry. He did an interview with Alan Biggs this week. He said that, you know, when Wednesday got relegated from the Championship, he had, you know, potential to stay in the Championship with someone else. Even top team going up to the Premier League had sort of made inquiries as well. But he said he was adamant that he wanted to stay. You know, when that happened at the time, how pleased were you when you had that conversation with Barry and you turned around and said, look, there's offers there, but I'm not interested?
Very, very, yeah, and he's honest, Baz, and he's right, and I can recite the conversation now with him, and he's right, because we had a real top Championship club coming for him, a real good club, and you could understand him wanting to take that opportunity. And that top Championship came in with a view of going towards the Premier League, and sort of looked at him as a pivotal part for their campaign. But when he said to me that, you know, he wanted to stay because obviously believing in the project that we was going to bring here, the structure and the dynamics that was going to be here, and him being a pivotal part of it, I was really pleased to hear him say that, you know, he wanted to stay and continue. With that, you as a manager, the connection that we've got has been wonderful. Last season, I was absolutely overjoyed with his performances, the goals that he got, the assists that he got. And what people spoke about Barry Bannon was Barry Bannon being the assist and goals, and you know, he hadn't got those assist and goals in his career, but it's up to us as a coaching staff to look at the player, to strip back his game and put him in a position on the pitch where he's going to be effective for us. And I think certainly over the last 18 months, I think all of us would say that we've seen a very, very good Barry Bannon. And what I'm going to say is that there's more to come from him yet, even at the age that he is. And it's wonderful for that. And the reason why I say that is because he's thirsty, he's hungry, he's committed, and you know, there's blue and white that seeps through him in terms of what the football club means to him. So I'm really pleased for him. We're delighted that he's stayed on board. And again, over the second half of the season, you've seen some good consistent football from him, whether we play him in an advanced position, Joe, or whether we play him deeper. He's effective in both roles.
Excellent. And just lastly for me, with Akin and Dennis, are you still hoping to see them back maybe next month?
Yeah, good shout that, Joe. Yeah, actually, yeah. Hopefully, if it goes to plan, then we hope to see them back. Both players are doing excellent, really, really good, and it's great to see, really. As I said, they're both with the physios, coming to the back end of the physios, and then once they get with the sports science, you know, the next step is away from contact with the first team. So they're making some wonderful progress, which is great to hear.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time, Darren.
Cheers, Joe. Thank you.
Darren Halftrick, you all right?
All right, Al?
Yeah, not bad at all, not bad at all. I know this isn't necessarily your style, you know, you're very much on to the next game and all the rest of it. But looking at the fixture list, until January the 28th, believe it or not, there's only Derby County in that top 8. It looks from the outside to be a favourable few months ahead in terms of the fixture list. I know it's not your style, but surely you sort of look at it and think there's a real opportunity to get some serious momentum going here.
Yeah, but Alex, there's been momentum from the start of the season, you know, and I can't, in my professional approach, I would never look at fixtures and say that they're favourable. What I'm just going to say is that, like I've always said, we're part of 23 teams in this league, and honestly, this league, for reputation, size of club, it really doesn't serve anything. What I'm calling on the players to do is to perform and consistently perform and perform well. Every time they pull on the jersey in front of the fans, to really perform. Every time we come into training, to perform and get better, because if we get better in training, we perform on the pitch. And that's the demands that I've always put on the players and continue to put on the players. As a manager, the thing what probably frightens me most is me not bringing improvement to the players, because I've made that commitment to the players to say that I want to show improvement for them and continue them and moving them forward whilst playing consistent winning football, and that's always been the remit. So for me to look at these fixtures, Al, you are right, you know me inside out, that I'll only look towards Cheltenham and at looking at trying to secure the point against Cheltenham, which I know is going to be another game. We've worked again today, and we'll get ready, prepared for the game tomorrow, and then we'll look at the next game as the games come on through the month. It's going to be a busy month, I know that, but we'll approach that in the right manner.
I want to speak to you in a little bit more depth about the decision to bring in Jimmy Sham. Does it feel now, obviously there's been a lot of changes in your time at the club, a lot of players in and out, transfer windows, all the rest of it. Does it feel now that really you've got your grip on the club? Is this a Sheffield Wednesday in Darren Moore's image now?
Yeah, I think it's gone from when I was here 18 months ago to where it is now. The club's moved forward significantly a lot. The culture in the club's shifted. The mentality on the pitch, the expectations always been there. But there's I feel there's a different edge to us in terms of You know, I look at some of the games we've won this season and how we've had to be gritty and plucky. And then I've looked at some of the games where we have played some good football and shown that element of us. I'm pleased with that. I'm pleased with the versatility of the squad in terms of the players that we've got in. So when I look at it, I'm quite happy in terms of the progress that we've made. But I'm not completely happy because I know where we want to get the club and where we want to do and what we want to do this season. And there's still a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we need to try and catch up and do better with. Obviously, the focus and aim is on the first team, but we've got elements of the academy that we want to bring along and sharpen things up in the academy coming along really, and bring everything along the way. So we're always trying to evolve and trying to develop in terms of going forward. But certainly when I look at the characteristics of the squad, you know, the other night we went a goal down after 3 minutes. It did not rock the players one bit, and within 3 or 4 minutes we'd responded and got back in the game and controlled the game. I look at the mindset where the boys at when I first come, I don't think we would have recovered from that really, in terms of where the team is. So there's a different focus and a different mindset on the team that we have been working on from a sports psychologist point of view, from putting them in shock situations in training, by putting more demands on them in training, by putting extra training into the players, by doing double sessions in the afternoon, by doing video analysis work, by doing 1v1s. So there's all of those things, Alex, that we've brought into the club, that our job is to make these boys better players and to be playing the football that we expect them to play. So looking at that, there's been improvement there, but we keep striding to get even better.
Does having Jimmy, you know, obviously you brought in Wayne, you brought in coaches that you've had previously, obviously you trust and know well. Is that sort of the next piece in the jigsaw, if you like, on continuing to put your stamp on things? Yeah,
because what it does is it brings improvement, and having Jimmy in here now, it just means I can divide the group up into really smaller numbers and work specific. I can work units, specific work, and in detail. And next week we'll see us do that for the first time. Because why? Because we've got a full week to work. So there'll be 3 or 4 sessions detailing it, specific work next week that we can do. And we'll do that. And having Jimmy in here will promote that. So I'm really, really pleased to have him in there, because in order to element the improvement of the squad, it takes the work on the training ground, but I want to go specific work on the training ground. We do group work, but I think specific work, you get more understanding and more repetition to the practice.
I wanted to ask about Alex Mighton, obviously not been a feature maybe over the last couple of weeks. What more does he need to do? What areas does he need to improve to play a bigger part?
No, it's fine, Alex. I always think with the players when they do come, Alex, Malik, and those come, they just need to get in and you just need to just dust them down from where they've come from and the team dynamics they've been used to. And what you do, you get them into training, they get used to the players around them, they get used to the environment, they get used to the different messages that you're asking of them. But in terms of that for Alex, he's fine and ready. And as I said, when that time comes, we'll be ready to use him. Fantastic.
Last one from me. We've asked you sort of intermittently about the progress with Fizz's contract. It's sort of edging closer to January and the possibility of clubs from outside of England being able to, you know, negotiate for a pre-contract deal with Fizz. Is that a concern as we're sort of winding down to that deadline and that change in circumstance? Does it become more of a concern in your mind that Wednesday might lose him under those terms?
Of course, Alex. I mean, of course it's a concern. Fizz and his representatives know of our desire to keep him, so they know it's clear to them. What we are doing is being massively respectful for the situation, and both parties are continuing to talk. I can honestly say that the talks have never elapsed and never gone quiet. There's always been that desire to keep him on here. I think he's had a fantastic season last year. I think 75% of the pitch has been excellent with Fizz. And I think this season you've seen him being a more aggressive in the final third, which is what we want from him. We've wanted him to add those creativity, them goals and assists in terms of what you want from your midfield. And as a young player, he's been applying that really. We got to remember that Fizz is still only 21 and still learning the game and still developing. But he's got huge potential, as we know, in terms of it. But he's channeling that potential and his mindset in the right, correct manner in terms of what we want from him. But the talks are still ongoing. Yes, there is a concern that the deadline's fast approaching, but we believe here at the football club that all round will reach a decision long before then, really, and hopefully it goes in the favour of the football club.
Fantastic. Top man, I'll catch you tomorrow.
Cheers, Alex. Thank you.
Hi Darren, how are you?
Hello, Dom. You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. In terms of other injuries, how's the rest of the squad looking?
Yeah, they look fine. They look okay. And like I said, you know, we'll look at them tomorrow when they come back in and assess them. But they seem okay. As I said, apart from George and Reese and that, like, you know, they seem okay.
Is Malik Wilkes available for you? How's he doing?
And Malik was the other one, yeah. Malik's the other one that seems okay. And again, he's another one, again, that we can talk again tomorrow and give him those extra 24 hours. But again, Malik will be one as well that hopefully he'll be fine tomorrow. If not, then we envisage him being ready for the next up and coming game. Shouldn't be too long.
Just to clarify with Reece James, what is his injury?
It was up on his hip really, but we can't establish really if it was his hip or in and around his groin area.
Okay, and on the home form, you've picked up, I think, 4 points from the last 2 matches at Hillsborough. We all know how strong you were there last season. How important is it to get that level of consistency back at Hillsborough?
Yeah, we feel here, Dom, when you look at the course of our record at Hillsborough, it's something that the players and myself feels very proud of in terms of how we've been at home and how we've been with our attacking prowess at home, and we continue to do that, and that has to continue and will continue in terms of that. We're very, very mindful and aware that as you set those records, we're mindful and aware that, you know, teams will come and try and make it hard, and why wouldn't they, really, in terms of the home record that we got. So we feel really proud of our home record, and we have to try and continue that. But we know as the games come by, it gets more and more difficult the more and more wins you get at home, which you'd expect.
That's great. Thank you, Darren.
Thanks, Dom.